Today I'll be creating a very artsy watercolor card and adding details to the floral die cuts. Stay tuned to watch how I create this card. Hello and welcome to Creative Coloring with Iram. Today I am sharing with you a card that I had a lot of fun creating. Adding details to the die cuts with this pointy tool that I use for my 3D paper floral work. Doing this does add a lot of texture to the die cuts, but it's not only this. I will be watercoloring and inking the die cuts, so there's a lot going on. I'm using the Crafted Flower Sunburst Azalea layering die set, and it has two beautiful individual flowers and 3 leaves with these debossed veins. I will be using the 9x12 watercolor cardstock for the floral elements, and the reason I'm using this is that it is quite sturdy and 100% cotton, so it can take in a lot of water, and also because I can create my own 4 debossed veins without tearing the cardstock, and more on this later. I already went ahead and die cut one of each flower and several leaves out of the 9x12 watercolor cardstock. Now I will first add a light color wash on the bottommost layer. I will try to keep the center portion slightly darker than the edges. This doesn't matter really, it is really your preference because I will be adding a little bit of inking to the edges of these die cuts, but I do like the ombre effect it gives to the flowers when all the layers are put together. So this is really simple. For all the layers, I will follow the same plan of adding concentrated watercolor in the center and lighter on the edges. You can even change this up a little bit if you want to for variation for the second flower. Also, you can use gradient cardstock if you want to avoid watercoloring altogether, but the watercoloring does add a lot of variation and character to the die cuts, and also that 4D embossing that you will be able to achieve with watercolor cardstock, you might not be able to achieve as beautifully with gradient cardstock. I mean, you will, but it won't last long. For the flower, I have combined a bit of Tea Party and Cherry Blossom pigment and also added a bit of yellow pigment from the Artist Watercolor 24 pan set. Once I'm done coloring the flower layers, I will set them aside to dry and move on to the leaves. You can also use your heat tool to dry these, but because I was already working on other die cuts, I let them air dry for a bit. For the leaves, I will apply water to the die cuts and then add seashore pigment. I will add more of this on the base and keep a bit of the leaf portion light. The next pigment I will add is Cool Summer Nights. It is a gorgeous color and it will create a beautiful shade of blue-green to go with the pink coral flower. Once I'm happy with the look of the leaves, I will dry the die cuts and then add splatters of both the Seashore and the Cool Summer Nights pigment. If you want your splatters to be prominent, you will have to dry the die cuts completely. If you want your splatters to be not as prominent and a little diffused, then you don't have to dry the die cuts completely, just like slightly. But this, the adding of splatters will add quite a bit of texture to the die cuts, visual texture. Now this is the Pokey tool, a pointed tool that I mentioned earlier. This is used in 3D paper flower making to create veining and add texture to the petals. You can use any pointed tool you have and either go over the indentation already on the leaves if it's visible to you, because I added a lot of water on my leaves. My indentation, the debossed veins that is on the die, they're not visible to me anymore. So I'm going to be creating my own midrib and veins, and if you do create your own veins, each leaf will turn out different. Next, I will use Galactic Crisp Dye Ink and add a bit of inking to the leaf, and also add a little bit of blue inking from the Arctic Mountain Dye Ink. I will be adding this to some portion of the leaves just to create a bit of shading. And when you add a darker ink to the die cut, the veining you have added becomes more prominent as the ink goes into the grooves, and it does look really cool. Once I'm done with the leaves, I will move on to the flower layers. Make sure these are dry before you start working on them. I will start adding the same veining to the second layer of the flower layer. I will start from the tip towards the base. I will make sure to follow the shape of the petal. I will not complete the veining till the end of the die cut since that area will be covered anyway. Then I will move on to the inking. I will then apply a little bit of Coral Bliss and also a bit of Rubellite Dye Ink to the center of this die cut and also to the tips to enhance the veins that I added, just as I did with the leaves. Once done, I will also add a bit of inking to the first layer so it doesn't look bland compared to the second layer. If your other layers need inking, you can do that and then glue the layers together. I prefer to use liquid adhesive to add dimension to the floral die cuts. What I have done here is I have used a thin foam tape, not the instant dimension one, but a thinner foam tape just to adhere the first layer, the base, the bottommost layer, and the second layer. Both of them, there's a foam tape in between them, and the rest of them are adhered with liquid adhesive. So there's just one layer that's adhered with foam tape. If you want, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just use liquid adhesive to adhere all the layers together. Please follow the layering guide on the packaging. These flowers are easy to layer. For the card front, I will apply water to the center portion of an A2 watercolor cardstock, leaving the edges plain. Then I will drop in Cool Summer Nights pigment and spread it around. I will try to keep this lighter than my leaves since I also use the same pigment on my leaves. I will then add a bit of seashore pigment, and once I have the shade I want, I will dry the panel. Then I will add splatters of the same pigment. I will make sure the splatters are not very prominent, but still there. I will keep this less complicated since there's a lot going on already with my die cuts. I will then dry the panel and adhere my flowers with instant dimension foam tape and then adhere the leaves with liquid adhesive. Then I will add black paint splatters. I was going to add my sentiment and realized I put everything on the card upside down. That's why here in the video you don't see me adding the sentiment. I usually walk away when things like this happen before I start to break stuff. I hope you liked my card. I love the colors and I did enjoy creating this. You can tell by how inky my fingers are. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye!